the crux of my argument, the actual issue, if we want to get into it, is that it does unfortunately allow for necro. My only argument against the necro is the harm that it does to the surrounding world. But unfortunately,
all right, so a few days ago, I saw this video from a fella named Jovan Bradley, okay? Even two pro-lifers can't stop me. Now, I watched the video, right? I watched his debate against two pro-lifers, just like he says, and I didn't like it very much. I didn't like his debate tactics. I agreed with some of his points, but at the same time, I was like, that's a weak point. That's a weak point. Like, we're veering off into a topic that I don't really think is necessary. You know, like things like that. And we talked a little bit in DMs, and he said that he's not really trying to appeal to a broader audience. And so I'm just trying to get a read on this guy and see what he's all about. So he just called, and I'm going to go ahead and get into the call with him, and we're going to go over it together. And it's going to be a good faith, productive engagement. Hello.
Yo.
How's it going, man? How's it going?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. I'm just chilling.
Good to hear it. Yeah, so I just, you'll have to forgive me. I just got off a call with like, what's his name? Bad Opinions, Harmful Opinions. And
never heard of him.
Yeah, well, he went over one of my videos, and it was incredibly bad faith. So, and then I had a bunch of his chat on as well, and so like, you know, I had to deal with them. So if I'm a little bit, strung up, uptight. I think uptight is the word. I don't know. High strung. That's what it is. If I'm a little bit high strung, I apologize.
I got you, fam.
But I do hope that this will be a good faith engagement. So the reason that I reached out to you is because of this video. Even two pro-lifers cannot stop me. And I thought that it could have been better personally. And I just wanted to go over it with you. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And we can just go over it together. Would you like to be on camera?
I won't be able to anyway, because my camera's being used by my Twitch.
Oh, that's totally fine. No worries. I'll just turn on the video. Oh, sorry, wrong one. There we go. And you can just join that. Okay. So here's the video. And if it's okay with you, I just want to go through it step by step and kind of give you my thoughts. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and I'm hoping this will be productive. Can you hear it okay?
It's very
James,
weird.
I have people I see people in the comments that are saying that they're like rioting. They want Javon. I don't know who that is.
I mean, if you want to do another guess, I'm all for it. The thing is, Felipe's, and a lot of these people aren't in the live. Some of them have been in here before, but I do debate people that, you know, are intelligent and on different topics, and I always get the same comment. You're running from somebody, and then I debate them, and you know. So if you want to talk to him, I'm more than happy to.
Javon's is his whole thing consciousness?
I have no idea. I've never seen him before.
I'd love to hear. I know you have to go, but
they're just doing a little banter.
We got Javon. Hello there.
Hello, gentlemen.
Javon,
chat, is it loud enough? I'm going to try to turn it up a little bit.
Say in the comments that gentlemen do not run, and
yeah,
so,
no, don't run. I don't mind.
So I'm so happy you're joining.
Wonderful. I didn't get a clear explanation, so I was just wondering, like, why specifically you guys think abortion is wrong? Like, what's the underlying reason?
Felipe, would you like to go first, or would you like me?
Sure, I can go. You know, for me, James and I agree a lot, but I'll let you also do your pitch. But for me, you know, I used to be pro-choice, so this is an issue that is like very fundamental in my understanding of the world. And I think that, again, as someone going into the healthcare profession, I believe...
Wait, did he say he's pro-choice? He meant pro-life, right?
He would have meant pro-life, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That all
I figured, just a slip of the tongue.
And I believe in science. So from the moment of conception, right,
I believe in the
there is
science,
overwhelming consensus that human life begins at the point of conception. So that's the objective.
Oh, he used to be pro-choice. Thank you, Queen Laura.
Reality, right? Now, my view is based on the fact that human beings deserve human rights. And I don't think that innocent human beings should be unalived. And again, I think that the most fundamental right that we have as human beings is the right to life, the right to exist.
And this is a TikTok debate,
yeah,
so.
my pitch is, I agree with Felipe. My pitch is basically we should not be unaliving children.
Okay.
What a brave take, by the way. Beautiful.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna start with just sort of the beginning there. The I believe in science thing. I think science absolutely shows that human lives begin at conception. I have no issues with that. I don't think that tells us anything about morality. I think that tells us quite literally.
Just a real quick question, and this has nothing to do with like what I was saying. When you say that human life begins at conception, what do you mean by that?
It's a living thing that's a part of the human genome.
Okay, I agree. Just making sure.
Zero about morality. So to me, that really doesn't inform anything. It just informs like, oh, hey, this is now a human.
Well, it informs the subject matter.
Right.
I would disagree.
Science. Wait, hold on. I just want to make sure, because maybe you'll accept this. Science doesn't say, this is right and wrong necessarily, but we utilize all of the sciences, including the hard science, in order to come to a moral result.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Okay,
Some people do. Sure. If we want to go down that route.
Lewd Nudes is saying he loves your cat ear headset. It is a nice headset. It's very nice. It's more fancy than mine.
Sure.
You said that all humans deserve human rights. All humans are valuable. I just want to know why.
Okay, so this is where my first kind of contention comes in. So you're asking why, right? I don't know. I just feel like in a debate about abortion, which is like a really important medical procedure, I just feel like this is a weird path to go down. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you could be talking about, like you could ask him like really hard hitting questions, like, what about like this case, or what about that case that actually happens? Like, I feel like this goes down a really philosophical route. You know what I mean?
Well, I do tend to take it to philosophical, because their contention and the reason why, this isn't in the video, but I had been listening to them for like a solid 15-20 minutes before they finally let me in their live. The reason they view abortion as bad is they view it as murder. Okay. Right. So what I want to do is get to the key discussion here of like, what is murder? Why is murder wrong? And is it murder? Are we considering, like, would fetuses receive moral consideration? Would they be worthy of moral consideration when we're talking about murder and things like that? If their reasoning for abortion being wrong had been different, right? If their reasoning is abortion is wrong because it's taking human life, well, I want to boil down to like, why is it wrong to take life? Are we taking life? If their reason was abortion's wrong because the woman should, like, for whatever reason, like if somebody tells me abortion is wrong because you're responsible for it, then I have a whole nother argument lined up for like if they're going the causal obligation route. But because they went it's a human life route, that's why I went the route that I went.
Okay, I can kind of see where you're coming from with that. We'll keep going.
By virtue of being a member of the human species.
Okay, yes, so the question again was, here, I'll rewind a little bit.
All humans deserve human rights. All humans are valuable. I just want to know why.
By virtue of being a member of the human species.
Yes, that is a...
People have...
Yep, that would...
rights.
Sure, that would just be a circle.
Right, to answer your... Well, okay, hold on. You have to let me finish. To answer your question more directly, I believe that... I want
to point out, by the way, we're like not even 3 minutes into this debate, and he's like, you have to let me finish, and you did not interrupt him at all.
Just like the whole debate. This is right? The whole debate. They
I noticed that.
Consistently interrupted me the entire time, and then whenever I said anything, it was, oh, well, we're going to not let you finish a thought.
Right, I noticed that. They keep interrupting you and then accusing you of interrupting. It's the weirdest shit. Anyway.
Ants don't have the rights that we do. Other mammals, other species, other insects, by virtue of not being human.
Now he's dodging your question a little bit.
Does not give them the same rights as us.
No, it's a full dodge. Yes, this is still a...
Or rather, he's trying to explain it, but...
It's just human. It's not human essential. Is it human essentialism? It's just this belief that because we're human, and that's the only reason that it needs, that humans are more valuable than anything else, but they never can have an answer for why they're more valuable except for just they're humans.
Okay, so I guess I was stuck up on that question too. Like, I personally don't know how I would answer it.
I would if so I don't believe humans are necessarily more valuable than another sentient thing, but if you were going to ask me to put a reason on it, I'd say it's because humans have the capacity for a higher rationale.
Okay, yeah,
but usually our only reasoning for humans having higher value is because we are humans. That's usually the only reason anyone can ever give.
Okay, you do get into that a little bit, so we'll keep going.
Circular answer. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's human exceptionalism, which if you're going to just say, well, I'm a human exceptionalist, then you're a human exceptionalist. That was the word. But the problem with human exceptionalism is there is no way to ground it, right?
So I disagree with this point entirely. I think that human exceptionalism is an axiom. Like, if I say that humans are more valuable than any other animal because I think that, and I think that that's important to me, I think that's a perfectly acceptable answer. I connect with other people on a personal level. You know, I look like them, I act like them, I think like them. I don't really need another reason, do I?
I would disagree. I'd say if your reasoning for, like, if you're saying abortion is wrong because killing humans is all wrong because of human exceptionalism, and I think you would need more of a reason there, because you can say that humans are valuable to you, but when we're in the context of abortion, they're making a moral claim on the whole, and these two especially want to criminalize abortion. So they're now trying to take that moral and place it onto everybody else. So it's one thing if you're just saying, to me, killing humans, that absolutely, that's fine and dandy for me. Those are your desires. I think if your desires are, I love humans because I'm human and because I connect with humans, that's fine. But that then doesn't hold weight if we're then looking at it at like, how are we going to now make a policy decision? How are we going to make a moral decision on this? How are we going to, that's where I have the issue. Issue with it.
If they say, like, okay, so if they say they're a human exceptionalist and that's why they believe, which they didn't say, but let's say that they did, like, that's why they believe that abortion's wrong, because fetuses are human and they're human exceptionalists, and therefore fetuses deserve protection. What would be the counter to that?
I don't want to spoil the debate. That's not their, I'm just saying that's not their actual reason. And half of what I'm doing here is trying to get them to actually say their actual reason for it. Right. They haven't said it yet in the video, but I recognize from listening to their previous conversation, it actually has nothing to do with it being human. Okay. It has nothing to do with that. But if they're telling me like, well, I believe it to be human, I believe it to have weight just because it's human, I would just point out how there are multiple things in society that are human that we don't give that same moral consideration to. Right. So it's not that you're a human essentialist. That's just the crux they're using because they don't know any better, I guess, would be the answer.
See. Okay. Yeah. So they're saying basically they do say that they are a human. Hold on. I'm sorry. Can you explain that last part one more time? My brain is soup.
Which, I'm be honest, I already forgot.
Oh, it's okay. Well, you know what? We'll just keep going. We'll keep going.
But it's just that, like, in society, the way society is shaped right now, we don't value people just because they're humans, right? That's why if you're brain dead, we'll take you off of life support, right? You're still a human then. You're still a human whose body can still function in every way that, like, you kind of need to be alive. Right, but we pull the plug because that part of you, that, like, the part of you that we consider to make you a person is gone, which is the sentience. That part of you needed to experience the world around you is now not there anymore. Right. So we just don't hold weight to bodies. And what they're doing is they're using human essentialism to say, well, bodies are what's important, which I just disagree with on a fundamental level.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that angle. I have used the, like, when we say it's a human, or like human beings or human rights or whatever, we're talking about people. We're talking about personhood. We're talking about conscious entities that function on the same, on some cognitive level as a human,
when they start the conversation with, we believe rights begin at conception, what they're saying is they believe personhood begins at conception, right? Because that personhood is when you grant rights. Yes. So I like to have a conversation to break down what is personhood, when should it actually start, and when do we use personhood in our daily society.
Okay, I definitely see where you're coming from. I'm going to let it play some more because I do have a major contention that I'd like to bring up to you.
Sure. Because the answer is it's valuable.
Hold on, it's how everything has been assumed.
Can we get an interruption counter?
Function in society, every government that has tried to be true and good has always assumed that humans are special, unique, and valuable.
That's the time.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that
that's my
this is
subathon time.
true.
No, I'm
that
just
just
kidding.
means people
Right,
have
but
always
just so
done
you
this.
know,
This would be
it's
another
like in
logical
the
fallacy.
hard sciences, we make assumptions as well, right? I'm an engineer. We have to make assumptions sometimes to solve problems. Otherwise, we would never solve problems. Assumptions aren't necessarily from the devil. Sometimes we make assumptions in order to get to a result that makes sense.
Great.
So
Yeah.
what they're saying here is that they're assuming that humans have inherent worth and value over other animals, right? That's their assumption.
Yeah, they're
And
just using intuition.
I think on a surface level, most people would agree with that. So I think that optically, that's a good point he's making.
That intuitively people, yeah, sure. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily disagree, but I'm interested in having the harder conversation, right? Like intuitively, I can say, yeah, most people believe that people are important and valuable from the point. Yeah, sure. Most
Sure.
people intuitively believe that, but that where does that put us in the abortion debate, right? If we're having a hard conversation, we got to have the hard conversation, which is that intuition found, like, is that intuition based in anything? Is that intuition available, like, can that intuition be combated in any way, shape, or form? Like, if we're just going into, it's part of what I don't like, when a lot of pro-lifers will just be like, well, you're just murdering kids, right? Because they're just intuition pumping, instead of, like, the debate that we're having right now is human essentialism good, like an actual thing? Can it hold weight? So for them to go, well, intuitively we believe it is, okay, but we're debating that intuition. We can't just rub off the debate with going, but intuitively, right?
Okay. I'm going to let it play a little bit more because I have a
Hey,
point.
but you're
And
making
I'll say
more
this.
Oh, sorry. That
moral
was you.
assumptions based on
Javon,
circular
right,
reasoning.
Javon, hang on. Even if we adopted a subjective worldview, right, where human beings kind of determine what is valuable and what is not, the undergirding principle is that as a society we acknowledge that human beings have elevated value from other species. So even if, again, there is no objective view, which I would disagree with, but even if there is no objective view, I still think that as a society we collectively agree that by virtue of being a member of the human species, you have higher value.
Yes, this is just again, this would just be an ad populum fallacy, right? You're just saying that this is the case because many people believe this to be the case, which is fine, but that's not telling me why. That's just saying, well, these people believe why, but without giving me a reason of why. Like, that would be my issue in that.
So what it sounds like to me personally is that you're arguing with them on the front, like they said, we just believe implicitly that humans have some kind of value. And then you keep saying why? Like, why is that? Like, you're challenging them on that front. And I understand what you're doing now since you explained it, but my main contention with this is that it sounds like you're arguing that humans actually don't have that implicit moral value. And so, like,
I don't believe humans have inherent moral value. I believe sentient humans have inherent moral value.
Right. So
we get into, but I don't believe that just because we're human, that grants us some higher moral value than anything else on the planet.
But when we say human, right, what do we normally mean? We mean people, right? Like, colloquially.
I mean, you could, sure, but when I use it in the terms of these debates, when I say human, I just mean anything that's a part of the human genome.
That's
like,
fine.
If it, and especially because we're talking about fetuses, right? I don't believe fetuses to be persons.
I don't either.
So because we're having that conversation about fetuses, if I were to say, if I were to concede to them that, like, well, humans have this inherent value, I'd be conceding the fact that I believe prior to sentience that they have that value, and I don't, because they believe that it has it prior to sentience. So I'm pushing them on this aspect here. I want them to tell me what prior to 20, and we get into it later in the video, but I want them to tell me prior to 24 weeks, what is that quality that gives that moral value to a fetus?
Right. You do get into that later. I guess I think that it would be better if you were to explain that, like, beforehand, because I've had that confusion happen before where somebody comes in and they're like, well, do you think that a fetus is a human, right? And then I basically say, well, when we say human, what we mean by that is person usually. So in this conversation, we might use those interchangeably. No, or sorry, in colloquially, we might use those terms interchangeably. But in this conversation, it's human versus person. And so when I ask you questions about the humanity of something, I'm not asking you questions about the personhood. I'm asking you questions about its sapience. Is it, or it's sorry, not sapience. It's biological um, factors that make it biologically human, which a fetus is. You know, I think we both agree on that. But it's not a person. So I explained that, and I feel like I don't know. The only reason that I'm coming to you is because I feel like if a normie were to look at this debate, they would see you trying to argue against like a very basic fact that humans have inherent, like people have inherent moral value over over animals. That's what I'm afraid of.
Sure, but I don't debate for like normies, right? Like if somebody wants to have like if I were debating somebody whose position is different from the two of them, I would have been a whole different debate tactic, right? It would have been bringing up stats like the percent who has abortions, when they have abortions, why they have abortions, right? None of that matters to these two, right? They are full abortion is bad. In their full abortion, their whole stance is abortion is bad, zero exceptions, right? If I'm remembering their stance correct.
Oh,
so
sure,
none of the other stats that I bring up are going to matter to them, right? So I'm more interested in getting down to the root of why their argument is flawed on a rights perspective, because that's their whole basis. And I think that even if somebody's turned off a little bit by like what's the word I'm looking for? Even if they don't understand like right off the bat what I'm saying, I feel like I do pretty well explain it once we get into it. Once we flip the conversation to actual sentience and things like that.
Sure, but I feel like you've already laid the groundwork for people to think that you just don't think that like people have inherent moral value, because you're sitting here saying that humans don't have inherent moral value over animals. And to the layperson, once again, and I know you don't make videos for the layperson, but give me just bear with me. Like to the layperson, that would sound like you're saying, "Oh, well, this guy is just some weirdo who thinks that animals deserve the same rights as humans." And as left-leaning people, you know that is kind of a trope. And so if a normal,
I would probably
like,
say animals should.
if
Yeah,
a
but I would probably
regular-
say animals do deserve the same rights as people. Like veganism is probably a morally correct stance.
No, I believe that too, but I don't think that they need the right to vote. You would say that, right?
Well, I would just say they wouldn't need the right to vote because there's no utility there for them.
Well, right.
The animals don't have the capacity to vote.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
I don't. So when I'm talking about rights,
Okay.
right, I'm only talking about like not civil rights. Right. I don't talk
Right,
about
but-
civic right. I only talk about like the fundamental rights that would be granted to us about being sentient beings, which to me is just the right to life and the right to bodily autonomy would be the only two that are like fundamental.
At the end of the day, what this is going to come down to is like I would worry about like a normie stumbling across this video and getting the wrong idea. That's all.
I mean, I'm okay with them getting the wrong idea about me, to be honest with you.
But don't you
I-
do you feel like that would be harmful at all, like to the broader like space? And I know that's not like
the
your
discourse on like
responsibility.
abortion debates.
No, just like this tactic where people might come in and say, "Oh, well, this guy is just some lefty weirdo who thinks that humans and animals are should be treated on exactly the same level." Like,
Well, so here's the only issue I would have
Sure.
with it. So far in the video, the 5 minutes we're into it, I haven't given a position yet. Right? If they come in 5 minutes and they go, well, what I haven't given my position at all yet. I'm simply pushing back on theirs.
sure.
So I feel like if you go in 5 minutes into a video and someone's going, well, you believe this, you believe that, I'd be like, I haven't stated what I believe yet. Right?
Okay, but-
I've literally only asked questions the entire time.
Yeah, but the questions you're asking appear as like questions can answer a lot, you know? Like the questions
Sure.
you're asking would I feel like they could lead one to believe that is your position.
I mean, they wouldn't necessarily be wrong. Like, sure, we can say that like intuitively when I say human, I mean person. But again, like my actual opinion on it, my actual opinion on it is that humans don't have inherent moral value. Only persons have it. And I actually would say I view humans and persons differently, because a dead body is still human, but it's not a person. And a fetus prior to 24 weeks is a human, but not a person. So I would say that they are two distinctly different things.
They are. No, I'm not contesting that. But to the layperson, once again, they're not. And so if, you know, your video just popped up on my feed, and clearly your video is not for me. So what's to say that your video won't pop up on more people's front page who it's not for, and then they get the wrong idea. You know, like if you're a large enough content creator and enough people get the wrong idea about your positions, people are just going to start assuming that those are your positions. You know what I mean?
Possibly. If somebody wants to comment that, I would just comment back and say, watch the rest of the video. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess, but you know, hey, we'll just keep going. We'll keep going.
That's fine, but do you want to carry that on now? So what's your stance on abortion and why?
Sure, I think
Because
abortion
that
up to 24 weeks, you can have an abortion in any way you want. After 24 weeks, any type of abortion should be an abortion that prioritizes the life of the fetus, because at
Now, sorry, I'll let it finish.
that point, the fetus
So why
has
viability?
reached. No, not viability. Sentience. Sentience just happens to coincide with
Okay.
viability.
Okay.
Now, I don't disagree with the stance fundamentally, but I would ask you what you think of my stance, which is full abortion rights up until birth.
Well, I'm also full abortion rights up until it's just the type. I think the type of abortion matters. I think once something is sentient, the abortion should prioritize the life of the fetus. So you can still take it out. Like you can fully still take it out, because my overall stance on abortion is bodily autonomy, right? I just have a sentience principle about the type of abortion that can be had. So when you say like, oh, I'm 34 weeks, for example, I don't want to be pregnant. All right, we'll take it out.
Okay.
I don't kill it, because I believe it's sentient, so now I believe it has moral value. But take it out. I don't think you should have to be pregnant at all.
I do agree with you, and maybe this is something I could personally do better on, perhaps, because I do say like I think that just saying full abortion rights personally is rhetorically pretty effective. It shows like conviction. You don't have people questioning, but you know, it might be worth clarifying that like, well, no, we shouldn't be going around killing.
I'll
like,
tell you
illegal
what,
fetuses.
When I'm debating on my own, one of my topics is usually pro-choice all 9 months, because that's what I am. Way more questions than you would think. It's mostly people coming in going, well, you think abortion should happen in the 9th month? And I'm like, yeah, but when I say abortion, I just mean the medical termination of a pregnancy. The removal of the fetus and the contents of the uterus can happen in any way we want it to happen. So it does get a lot more questions than you would think.
What I would contest, what I would say in response to that, like to that person, would be, do you think that a doctor would purposefully make that decision to like just murder a 30-year-old or 30-month-old fetus, and if 30-week-old fetus? And I went down from year to day, or no, I didn't quite get to day, but now I did. But anyway, sorry, a 30-month. Oh my god, a 30-week-old fetus. I'm a mess. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
So my question would be, do you really think that a doctor would just slaughter a 30-week-old fetus because the mom asked him to? You know, like, and usually that puts it into perspective, and the audience gets the idea like, oh, well, no, I guess they wouldn't do that. That's very silly and conspiracy brain now, isn't it? You know, like
having debated with pro-lifers for like, what is it, 4 or 5 years now, some of them will say yes. And some of them will pull fringe cases. And so I feel like at that point, we're right back to,
yeah, but
we're right back.
No,
so
no,
I always like to just say non-lethal after 24 weeks. Geez, now I'm doing it. Non-lethal after 24 weeks, just to. But I'll tell you this. Even when I say that, they don't listen.
No, of course not.
Because then they'll go, so you want to kill the fetus? And I'm like, oh, what did I just say?
But the point is not that they don't listen. It's that it's not to make them listen. You know, like it's to make them look like an idiot, right? Because you know that you're not going to sway them. So if you can if you let them bring up those weird scenarios and then shit on them, I mean, I'm not saying you have to do that, but that's personally what I do, and I feel like that's pretty rhetorically effective. Because
yeah, I feel like though that is part of what I'm doing in this. I mean, at least that's what it seems based on the comments I've gotten on the YouTube video. Plenty of people seem to think that these guys are kind of not the brightest bulbs in the shed.
No, I will be debating him in a few weeks here, so it'll be fun. But anyway, I'm going to try to let this play for a little bit before I comment again.
I don't really care if it's viable or not. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. I think once it's a sentient creature, which is what I think we do actually place value on in society, is creatures that are sentient. I think once we have that and we've reached a certain threshold for that, then I would say we should probably prioritize life.
Okay, solid answer.
Does every single I just have a question, and I don't know if Felipe has to say, but
they got no response to it either.
Does every single 1-day-old have sentience?
Yes. I mean, they have the necessary components to run sentience. Whether they're sentient or not, I wouldn't know without testing, but I think the choice should be up to the parents whether we keep that 1-year-old alive or not.
My main issue with you, which it might be impossible to overcome, is that you actually, it wouldn't matter the condition of the 1-year-old or the week-year-old or the unborn or the 20-year-old. You don't actually believe humans have inherent value.
No, I don't.
I told you, like they stuck on that, man.
But again, here I would say this is on them now, because I very clearly laid out where I place the value. I'm okay, like with my position being known as humans don't have inherent value. I'm totally fine with that. I believe it.
But okay, so philosophically and literally, I understand what you're saying, but don't you think rhetorically that sounds pretty bad?
Humans don't have inherent, sure, maybe.
But
to some ears, yeah, maybe.
But okay, so you're not communicating the idea very well, I feel like, when you say that, because I know what you mean, but some people wouldn't.
I mean, listen, I'm totally fine if people think it sounds bad, right? There are a lot of
Why?
takes I have that people probably think sound bad.
But
I'm
why?
not gonna. Well, because I'm very clear with the words I use. So if my words are humans don't have inherent value, the value comes from sentience. That's because I don't believe humans to be this overall bastion of moral weight in the world. I believe animals that are sentient have the same moral value as us, right?
Right.
So at least until a cheeseburger is put in front of me. But
True.
like I said, because I'm very clear with my words. If they don't listen, I that's all. I can't try to dumb down every conversation to reach like every single person in the audience, right?
Not every person, but certainly most of them, I would hope.
I mean, I feel like I've done pretty good at reaching the bulk of, at least with the last sentence I did, of reaching the bulk of people. And these two are sticking to that point there, that so you don't believe life has value, because that's the only thing they have nothing to say about my actual stance, right? So they're just trying to pin it back to, oh, you don't think humans have value, in which I'm just going to respond again, the value comes with sentience. But because they can't argue sentience, they're going to go in a circle trying to make an argument, which I think goes in our favor, is making them now look silly because they can't provide a counter argument.
But you're saying humans don't have implicit value, and that is your stance. And when you
Correct.
say it like that without adding context, I just feel like that sounds pretty bad, and I feel like the
context does get added, though. They did it. I did add the context.
You did, but not until later, and so they already have the idea in their heads now that you don't think that people are valuable.
Sure, because I didn't give a stance until 5 minutes in. Like you said, people can infer what my stance is, right? But until about 5 minutes into the video, I don't give a stance. I'm just running them down a dialogue tree to see their stance. Like whether or not it's a good or not good, whether or not we agree if it's good or not as a debate tactic. My whole point in this is to show that their stance is just circular and it has no bearing. And I think I show that well enough in the first 5 minutes, and then they get into the counter arguments, which I think just shows even more that they don't know even the science enough of what I'm talking about to even contend with it.
Okay. All right, I understand your philosophy a little bit better, I think, but let's keep going.
Humans have inherent value now.
Right.
I think it's an indefensible position, because not a single person has been able to tell me why we just have exact value without just boiling it down to human essentialism.
Why do we not allow people to unalive other people?
Because we'd be removing the experience that's being had, the subjective sentient experience that is currently being had.
I understand
we would be removing that thing. That's why we don't let people unalive people.
See, and this is what I'm talking about. This just asking that question shows me that they didn't understand my argument at all. Which is okay. They don't need to understand my argument. The people in the comments do, which is what's important to me, right? These two, whether they understand my argument or not, me and you both agree, half of what we do is make this side look dumb, right? So whether they are understanding, totally fine. But the comments seem to understand exactly what I'm saying.
I think the comments do, certainly. I think that's mostly people who are already in your audience, though. Could I argue that?
I mean, I just randomly joined this live. There were people from my group there, but I don't know who was all in it.
Fair enough.
It's one thing. It's 100% different if I'm hosting my own space, but I just joined their space. I have no clue who was. I mean, it's not even like they had many viewers anyway. It was only like 100 something.
Okay, I think ultimately because I'm kind of a meathead, I try to put things in meathead terms. So maybe this is just a difference in tactic. But I don't know. We'll keep going.
Look, I might have to punt in some ways here, because you really have fleshed out this philosophical view. Would it be allowable for you to walk into my apartment right now and to?
I didn't listen, neither did the audience. Okay, well, I do have at least one person in my audience that agrees with you, and I want to acknowledge that. So, like I said, this could just be completely a different tactic.
Unalive me.
No, because I'd be ending your subjective experience.
That's a good answer.
And what about if I pushed you? Could you unalive me then?
No. The only time I think it's morally okay to unalive another person is if you're defending your own sentient experience. If you're not defending your own or another person's sentient experience, I don't think it's morally okay to unalive another.
That's a pretty good
And
argument.
sentience is the hallmark of a person.
I believe sentience. I believe sentience to be the hallmark. I believe having experience.
By the way, I do believe that the proper term is sapience. Somebody brought it up earlier.
Well, when I say sentience, I just mean I mean having a subjective experience. I think sapience is specifically human, isn't it?
Yeah. So then
Because I don't mean just specifically human. I think anything that has sentience, I think, has moral value.
Sure, it has more value, but I personally put more moral value in sapience than I do sentience. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. But I that's my personal belief.
Yeah, I would place it on sentience for me because like I said, I believe vegan to be the morally correct choice. Now, whether I
No, I'm the
engage
same.
in veganism is a whole nother
I'm the
whole nother
same.
topic together.
And
But
I do
like I said, I believe.
please.
Yeah, I was just saying. Like I said, I believe that. I also think sapience might mean something else. I have to. I'm looking it up right now. I think when we're talking philosophically, I think sapience is more talking about like your capacity for intelligence, not the capacity for experience.
Right. Yeah, sapience is responsible for states of awareness, where sentience is responsible for states of feeling. So you could say that like a bacteria has sentience.
I would disagree because sentience, at least the way I use it, is the ability to experience. And I wouldn't say a bacteria is experiencing anything. I would say a bacteria is
it's
just
arguable.
like kind of running on whole on I don't even know if I'd say they have instincts. Do bacteria have
Sure.
instincts?
I guess you could maybe chalk it up to instinct, but I understand your point. They're kind of like little biological machines. But I guess an ant though would have sentience, right? Like, you know, subjective experience.
If their brain is I don't know if an ant's brain is capable of experiencing. I don't know. I
Well,
don't
it feels
I don't know
though,
enough
right?
about ants.
Do you think that it feels things? Because that's what's the
I think
definition
an
that I
ant
saw.
feels things,
Yeah.
pain maybe, but like the experience of pain isn't directly linked to sentience if that pain isn't linked to a subjective experience.
But
Like
wait,
that pain has to connect to the brain, and you have to be like, oh, I'm feeling pain, right?
but
Like it's like when we talk about sentience, it's much more complex than just like, oh, because fetuses can feel pain, can like those pain receptors can fire as early as I want to say 16 weeks, but the part of the brain needed to connect that firing doesn't show up until about 20, if I'm remembering correctly.
so then it's just an instinctual reaction, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and things have instinctual reactions all the time, right? Trees' roots
Right.
will grow towards water, but that doesn't mean the tree is experiencing anything. It's not sensing that water is there and then experiencing that water being sucked into its
Well,
branches and things like that.
That's up for the debate, but that's more philosophical. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, I like I said, I've been debating abortion for like 4 years, almost 2020, whenever 2020
Right.
was, for like 4 or 5 years at this point. I've moved my tactics more to philosophy, more than I'd probably like to have moved it to philosophy. But again, that's just based on what arguments I get first, right? I would have
Right.
loved to have. I'll take an abortion argument whichever direction. It just depends on why the people tell me abortion is wrong.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we'll keep going.
To be the only thing that we can measure. Otherwise, you're just a body, and I just don't hold any moral
But that's very
consideration to
subjective,
bodies.
right? Like that's very vague. Why
Not really.
sentience?
Because that's when you're
Why?
having it.
Why
Because that's when
sentience?
you're having an experience. That's when you can actually
Right, but
extrapolate
does the
what's happening to
quality-
you.
Okay. Does the quality of the well? That's I mean, psychology would say that that's
Now,
there's-
I do have a good counter for this, just real quick. Let's say that you have somebody in a coma who might wake up but might not. Can I kill him?
No, and I address this in a little bit, but basically
Okay.
my stance is once we have the necessary components, because we can't judge, because sentience is something that we, other than knowing it's there, we really can't judge the type of experience you're having, because there are reports of people in comas understanding are being able to recite conversations that were had in the room when they wake up. They have dreams, things like that, because we don't know levels of sentience. Basically, from the moment the sentient experience is able to begin in the brain, which is about 24 weeks, to the complete end of that sentient experience. So this would be brain death. We should value the experience throughout that entire period.
Okay. Okay, touche. That was a good answer. Give me just a second. I got to take my chicken off the burner.
Heard.
Feel free to chat with my chat.
Oh, what's up, Alex chat? I'm also talking to my chat. What's up, chat? What's up, squad?
All right, I'm back. You want to keep going?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. I think this is good so far.
There's a lot of nuance in that, but
Yes, but that's why I mark it at 24 weeks. So the quality doesn't matter. I mark it at the moment. No.
Do you believe that the quality
Asking me
of
questions
your
and not
experience
letting
as
me
a
answer
human
is so
being
crazy.
matters, or
Yep.
does that give you more or less worth? Or is it just the fact that you're able to have that?
It's just the
that
fact that you're
experience?
able to have the experience. That's why I mark it at 24 weeks, which is 24 weeks is the point of pretty much consensus right now of when sentience can occur, right? So 24 weeks is when your neurons have matured enough. It's when there's been enough development of neurons. It's when there's enough connection between your sense organs and your hypothalamus. When all of that finally begins, I would say, boom, you have moral consideration. No one can take this moral consideration away until it has permanently ended. So until that sentience is permanently ended, no one can remove your moral consideration. That's when I grant it 24 weeks, and those would be the reasons.
It's a good argument. I think it's a good argument in the sphere that you've chosen to argue in. I personally would have taken this conversation an entirely different route, but that's just me. Is that fair to
Like
say?
I said, it just depends on who I'm like. These two guys, I could give whatever stats and figures on abortion I want. They're never going to change their mind on it.
But maybe
I could say that
right?
I could say that maternal mortality is up 40%. I think it's 40% since Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Right.
I could mention the fact that there have been what's the number now? Is it up to 90,000 women who've suffered at the hands of rape who now have forced to have abortions, are forced to give birth to the child, because all of this doesn't matter because they give zero exceptions.
Right.
They don't care about any of that. So I'm just trying to boil down now to the point of like, well, why do they, are they morally correct for having this stance or not?
What I like to do personally, if you'd like my opinion, is it's like what I did. I don't know if I'm not trying to brag, I promise, but I did confront Matt Walsh with this question, and he had a very difficult time answering it. And the question is simply, why do you want 10-year-olds? So why do you want a 13-year-old victim to be forced to give birth? Why do you support that? And I think that like posing it like this in a way that is practical, real, that's something you can visualize, which it's horrific, but you can, right? And the whole point is to show people this is the end state of their logic. This is the real consequence of their logic. And I think that showing people those real consequences is the most effective method of debate, in my opinion.
I mean, sure. I think it just depends on what we're trying to accomplish, right? Like I said, I'm just trying to show that their position doesn't make sense logically, right? Just their position on why abortion is bad just doesn't make any logical sense.
You're tackling this from a more philosophical and also academic angle.
I'm tackling from a moral, like it's a moral, we're having a moral discussion, right?
Okay.
Actually, if they had put in their title abortion should be banned, like abortion should be illegal, I would have tackled it from a legality position. But because their initial claim is a morality claim, I'm tackling it from the morality range.
I could do that with my question too, though. Could I not?
Sure, but yours is saying, well, is it wrong because of the consequences it pushes? And mine is it wrong just in general?
You know what
Well,
I mean?
I think I'm a consequentialist, so I believe in,
okay.
yeah. So, like I said, this could just be a complete difference in philosophy. But in my opinion, something being moral or not, it largely has to do with, first of all, what your purpose is, and second of all, what the outcome is. Obviously, you can have situations where somebody does something terrible, but then something really good happens after that as a result. That doesn't make the thing that the person did good, but uh, but I don't know. It's um. Sorry, my brain fell apart again. It doesn't make what the person
Like I said,
did.
I'm just trying to boil down to the core of the core of like the question, like, is abortion wrong?
Okay.
Is it wrong to kill a fetus? Why or why not is really where I'm trying to boil their stances down to it in the debate.
Well, I would say that it's fine if the alternative is worse, and the alternative is a 13-year-old giving birth. And I think that if that's the alternative, then morally speaking, the correct thing to do is to abort the fetus.
Sure, but then they would just come back with, well, what if it's not? What if it's a healthy 25-year-old who could afford a pregnancy?
That's not what we're
Why
talking
would it be
about,
immoral? Well, no, but this is what I'm saying. You are just picking at one isolated incident. They can
Yes,
just come back
a real
and give
one.
you another isolated incident,
But they have
right?
to
They
answer
can,
mine. They have to say, yes, I'm fine with that, or no, I'm not.
which they would, because I know their stance. They would say, yes, I'm fine with it.
Yes, so then I
Right.
can say you're disgusting, and that's it. I win.
Sure, but I don't know how that looks optically to the other side, right? Like the other
I think it
side's
looks
not
great.
gonna. I disagree. I've had plenty of debates where I know that I've been right, and I know that even broadening it down but the other side is still going, well, that's not true. He's not right. Blah blah blah. Right. So my goal is to make them look as dumb as possible by showing that I know more about the science behind it, more about the philosophy behind it. Because right, if they just go, and even like they can just concede too. Right. If they just go, okay, I concede abortion for 13-year-olds should be a
Sure,
thing.
and then you move
What
on to
about
the next
abortions
step.
for? Yeah, and then the next step would be a healthy 25-year-old who could afford the pregnancy.
How about an adult victim? That's a good next step.
Sure, but eventually you're going to have to get to the point of just general abortions.
Yes, and then you can
Right.
say the reason that I want it to be legal in all cases is because I care about those cases the most. And my moral philosophy is it's her body, her choice. That is true. But if I can make a case that outlawing it in any situation could endanger women who are victims of, I feel like that's rhetorically very effective, and I do that by means of using the chilling effect, invoking the chilling effect, which is what conservative politicians do anyway. So, like I said, I'm taking a very practical approach to this. You're taking a very intellectual one, and I respect that. The reason that this kind of stuck out to me is because I wanted to make sure, like, I don't know, I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit about, like, your.
Well, I would just say, what do you do when they come back and go, okay, all of those should be legal, or all of those abortions should be legal. Abortion
worry.
in the firm clip that, right? Abortion in the sense of rape and incest legal. They just go, those are legal abortions.
Then I would say, how do you prove it? I've been down this road before. Let's paint a scenario.
Well, yeah, so have I. And I mean, my answer, if I was LARPing as a conservative, I would just be like, I don't need to prove it, right? I'd be like, well, I'll concede that we should. I think most people wouldn't lie about being raped.
Okay.
So I believe most people wouldn't come in and lie about it. So it'd just be the people that aren't lying about it that we would. I mean, it's the same thing that's happened now. There are states where abortion is illegal, except in the case of rape and incest, but you still have people that are not able to get abortions.
Exactly.
Right? You have people that aren't lying about it.
Yeah, so you stick on that. And you say, okay, there are states where that's allowed, and there are still people who get raped who can't get abortions. You know why? Because legally it's very difficult to prove that somebody was raped. Like it's.
No, I actually think that would do more for their argument.
Why is that?
Right? They would say, see, we have states where abortion for rape and incest is real, and where abortion for rape and incest is legal, and people aren't able to now get the elective abortions that we disagree with. Right? They disagree with the elective abortions, right? They don't care. Right. And honestly, this is just going to come down to whether or not we want to show that they're morally corrupt or they're illogical.
And I think I would rather show that they're illogical than morally corrupt, right? Because I just assume we'll get to the end of it, but like their whole thing is religion. I just assume most people that are trying to make policy based on religion are just like morally bankrupt, right? So
Yes.
I want to show that they're illogical. I want to show that their stance makes no logical sense, because they can just go, yeah, we think that some women might suffer, and that's morally acceptable to us because it saves the life of all of these babies.
Okay, I do think that you kind of hit the crux of our divide here when you say that I'm going for the moral bankruptcy, and you're correct. I am. I think that you can also implement illogical into there, like illogical. Show that they're illogical through your talking points. But yeah, that's the main thing I'm trying to do is show like, no, you are a terrible person for believing this thing. Because this is
and I'm trying to point out the logical inconsistencies. I think,
okay,
at least in the way I debate, I feel like that's more effective for me.
okay, we can keep going through this if you want. I do want to say that I feel like I have like a greater like respect and understanding of your debate philosophy. I would say still that I still have some uh doubts about your about saying that I don't believe that humans have inherent right or inherent value. I just think that rhetorically you're communicating the wrong idea. You know what I mean? Because most people, when they think human, they think person, and that's my biggest issue with this entire thing. So, like I said, we can watch the rest of it.
I would say most pro-lifers don't, though.
Most
most
pro-lifers-
are let me rephrase that. That's
Sure.
actually my issue with pro-lifers. Let me rephrase that.
Sure.
Most pro-lifers do believe that human always equals person, and I don't think human equals person all the time. So I think that's why I try to make that distinction, is because I don't believe human equals person, and the crux of their argument is that human equals person when we're talking about rights. That is the whole crux of their argument, is that just because you're a human, you're a person who's deserving of rights. And I disagree with that on a fundamental level.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I think that it would be better if you prefaced the argument by saying we have to make the distinction between human and person, because I don't believe that just being a human makes you a person, because that would mean that I think fetuses are humans. That would mean that I think even possibly corpses are humans, and I don't think that's the case. So, we have to make this distinction for the purposes of my argument so that you don't misunderstand me. You know what I mean? Because I personally misunderstood you.
Sure, but I think, like I said, I think I did clarify. I feel like
later, but at first, like you were just flatly saying, no, being a human does not give you inherent value.
Sure. I don't think that's necessarily. I don't view that as necessarily a bad thing.
Okay, I mean,
if somebody takes me at like the first 4 minutes of a video, they can do that with so many things. If they just want to look at like one portion.
But a lot of people do that. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it's purely an optics thing is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, sure. I don't mind. I don't think I mind it though.
Sure, that's okay. That's totally fine then. That we can disagree on that. That's I like I said, I'm on your side. I'm not here to start any beef or drama or nothing. And I do like you, by the way. I think you're cool. I like your headset too. But like I said, if you would like to continue through this video, just to show my audience like the rest of your arguments, because like I said, I do respect your tactics, even if I wouldn't use them myself. So it's up to you. Would you like to continue?
Oh, I don't mind.
Sure.
I ain't doing none.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think we're always going.
Wait, one sec. JC Ramirez in my chat. Don't say that, please. That sounds like very close to eugenics. Don't say what. That
I don't think either of us got close to eugenics.
I don't think so either. But I'm interested, JC. If you could explain that, thank you.
Going to, and the chat's it seems to be in love with you, Joven. So good for you. But I think it'll be very difficult for me to agree with you on anything because you don't believe in objective morality.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, like
says who?
Javon, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on like cognitive decline, right? Like sentience in theory can diminish over time. Like if you have like
but see, this is my not to pause it again. This is my issue. They don't listen.
Sorry. It's hard to tell.
They physically just didn't listen again. Like I literally said, I hold this point until the sentience is fully gone. And they're just back with, well, what about the decline? What, the decline doesn't matter. I don't care about the decline.
I'm going to run it back because honestly, I was reading chat.
Sentience in theory can diminish over time. Like if you have, like some kind of cognitive disorder or disease, like
Yep, I addressed that.
do you stop
Yeah, you
being
did.
valuable, or do you still
Nope.
retain that
I
value
said that
if
you.
lose
I said from the minute the parts of the brain necessary to run it are formed enough until it is permanently gone. So
Right, because that person, you already did address that. You're right, because that person's still
yep,
having experiences.
they don't listen. They
Yeah, well,
physically just do. They
either that or they
tune
don't
out.
understand. If a meathead like me can understand it, then they should be able to
There's
grasp it
no.
just
I'm
fine.
being so clear. I mean, I literally say from the start to when it's permanently gone, and he goes, "Well, what about the?" It's that they weren't. They probably weren't listening.
You cannot make those cases always legal unless you make abortion always legal. Yeah, that's my point too. Leading
Until
them
it
up.
is permanently gone, you have the same moral consideration as any other person with sentience, because the experience that you're having is what.
Just because you're humans does okay. So he's saying, JC in the chat is saying, just because you're human doesn't mean you deserve rights. Almost direct quote. Yes, we discussed this. We have a little small disagreement on that, and that's fine. I just think that it's better to preface it by saying, by explaining that you make the delineation between person and human and making that explicitly clear. I
Sure,
just
and
think,
I can make that clear at the start of the conversation, but I still do. Again, I still do stand by just because you're human
no,
doesn't give you. I don't think humans are automatically deserving of rights. I think sentient
I
creatures are
agree.
deserving of rights.
Right, I agree with what you're saying. I agree with the idea that you are communicating. I just had issues with the way you were saying it. That's all.
What is valuable, right? I don't care if a body is thrown off a cliff, like a body that's not alive. You toss it off a cliff. You're not. There is no harm being done. There is no person
I
experience.
I will say,
Not to pause again. The
Sure.
only the thing that the crux of my argument, the actual issue, if we want to get into it, is that it does unfortunately allow for necro. My only
Yeah.
argument against the necro is the harm that it does to the surrounding world. But unfortunately, I've had plenty of people who go, well, what if somebody wants to do a dead body? I'm like, well, I don't believe that body has any inherent rights or value. But usually it's just about the harm that it spreads to the direct surroundings around it. But that, like,
Yes.
that would be the way that they combat that stance. That would be the way they combat that.
Yeah,
in my
that's
opinion.
what I would say too. You can still hold a coherent worldview like that and also think that necrophilia is bad. The reason that it would be bad, like you said, is because of the circumstances surrounding. Like in a vacuum, let's say that you're on like a beach somewhere, you know, like in a stranded desert, and you have like somebody that nobody knows about and or cares about, and then they die, right? Um, you know, like what what does the guy do with the corpse then? You know, like I think that first of all, I think it's a bad precedent to set if that person desecrates the corpse. You know what I mean? Like if they think that that's an okay thing to do. I just think that it's a bad precedent to set personally. I have difficulty though, I'll be honest, making a moral argument against it, you know, because nobody cares about the person and they're not a person anymore. So
Yeah, I
I
typically
just
just
think
go, I
that the
think it's
precedent
icky.
it's icky, yeah. The
I'm
precedent
not
it
even gonna, I'm
sets.
not even gonna hold you. People be like, well, that's logically inconsistent. I'm like, listen, some things I think it's okay to not do just because it's icky. I think we got some ick, and icks are okay.
And by the way,
It's
I don't think you're alone in being, and that's a hard question to answer. You know, to be fair, it's very difficult. This is a brain turner, if you will.
But then I take it a step further because I
Sure.
also, and I don't know how thought out this view is, but I do think everyone should be an organ donor. I do think that like a lot of people die because we bury perfectly good organs in the ground. And now I don't think because of the way the government is that we should be forcing people to give away their organs, because then people are going to be probably killed for their organs. But like, I'm really struggling here, because how many kids die because they can't get a transplant, and then how many of those organs are we just burying in the ground?
It's about, so Kermit Thorson has a good point. I think this is the best answer I've heard. We don't desecrate corpses because it's pretty obvious that the person wouldn't want to be desecrated. So do we have then an obligation to respect the wishes of the person who is dead when in regards to their own body and what we do with it?
I think it depends on what the thing is.
Yeah,
right?
and within
Like
reason.
if my dad died, let me pick a different person. If somebody I love dies, and in their will they say, I want you to slap yourself in the face 5 times, or they say something else. What if somebody I love dies and says, I want you to desecrate my corpse, right? I would be like, no, I don't really care if that's what you wanted. Like,
well,
if that
now,
was your
but
desire.
they're involving you now, which I guess they are anyway. But
I
It's a position that I'm not 100% in past. Like, I think some stuff is just icky. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's hard. It's a
but-
hard question.
But basically, I think that like once you're dead, that's kind of like, I don't even know how I feel about cemeteries, to be honest with you. We probably
don't
shouldn't
like
even be
them.
burying bodies. We probably should just be burning them and be done with it.
Not even burning them. We need to return them to the earth is what we need, so they can decompose naturally. Bury them real deep and just let them decompose. Cemeteries are a waste.
Yeah, I just don't know how much I don't know how much rights I grant. Typically, when I'm granting rights to a dead body, it's in respect of the family of the person that died.
Yes.
It's more respect of those people than it is respect of the body itself.
Yeah, it's an interesting talking point, and one that we'll put to the side for now. I want to continue the video. But thank you for bringing that up, Kermit.
And bad?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so if someone lives a bad experience, are they less valuable?
No.
He never said that.
All I
Why?
value is that they're having an experience. I don't care if the experience is good or bad. All I care about is that they're having an experience, right? That's what gives them moral consideration.
Wait, hold on. I know.
Now, if I were being bad faith, I would say, what do you mean you don't care if the experience is good or bad? Oh, you don't care if people have bad experiences? Huh?
Well, if you're being real bad faith, and I think they kind of do that. I think they do that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're only talking about whether or not that experience grants them moral consideration. Whether you have a good or bad experience, that experience still grants you moral consideration.
Jesse's coming here with the big arguments. Alec dumb. Well, I know I'm dumb. It's fine.
I know you're trying to, yeah. So experiences can be good or bad.
Sure.
But you simply just care about that they're having the experiences. Why do you acknowledge they can be good and bad then? Because I feel like that there should be a connection there.
No.
I'm not understanding the relevance.
Yeah, just kill people if they've been tortured. It's fine.
It was the weirdest experience. I don't even know if you can tell the look on my face. I'm like, what? I'm just like so confused at this point. Like, what the hell are you two talking about? They're grasping at straws to try to like give an argument that'll go against mine, but like it's not working.
It's very dumb. I can see through the cracks now. I still can see how people would think that they're winning, but
thankfully I don't think anybody does, except for if you see in the comments right now, there's a person named Jamal. He's just one of my many haters, but I thankfully it doesn't seem like many people thought they were winning this conversation.
It's possible unborn babies can have sentience in the first trimester. Right, but let's say that's true, but then it's still a matter of bodily autonomy for the person carrying it, yes?
Yeah, the sentience only tells me what type of abortion that you can have. If we find out that sentience is at 12 weeks, okay, you can still take it out. You can't kill it until it's on the table, and you got to let it die naturally. But you can still take it out.
But I would argue, like, what if the safest way to take it out is to kill it?
And that's fine. That's the safest way to do it. Like I said, my sentient stance only tells me the type of abortion to be had. I still believe you can remove it from your body the entirety of the pregnancy.
Okay. We'll keep going.
Should have an impact on your value, should it not? Because
no.
You are considering experience as this hallmark thing in the human life.
No, when we're talking about why experience is important, it's because without that experience, nothing is happening, right? Like a body sans experience is just a body. If this body can't experience the world that's happening to it, there's nothing, right? When we talk about whether an experience is good or bad, great. We can talk about like how we can fix bad experiences that are happening like to people, but like it doesn't remove the moral consideration.
Low key, he's trying to give me an anti-natalist stance.
Trying to give you an anti-natalist stance?
Like what? Like sure, if people are always gonna have bad experiences, nobody should give birth ever.
Yeah.
It's such a dumb.
Life sucks. Kill everybody.
Yeah, I mean your argument only works in a subjective worldview, right? Because we can now because we've taken away the I would say
that's not
most
true, but I decided to roll
assumption
with
that
it.
we do have objective morality. We've taken that off the table. We can now look at every single case.
Because unpopular opinion,
say,
I do think morality is subjective. Unpopular opinion.
Man, I would love to pick your brain about that, but I'm gonna write that down for when the video's over.
Let's look into. Let's
think
about
my worldview is not.
Oh, sorry. I
My
thought it was
worldview
you
is
again.
not at
It's
odds with
confusing.
objective
Hold on,
morality.
hold on. Just let me finish, okay? But that's not how anything works. It's just it doesn't. The law doesn't work that way. The United States doesn't work that way. So it's a very for me, and I'm sorry that I have to punt in some ways, but it's very difficult to really grasp what you're saying because it doesn't operate under the most basic assumption.
Yeah, my
that there is-
worldview is not at odds with objective.
But once again, he wasn't listening because they just keep sticking on this point of like, you don't think humans have inherent moral value. So he wasn't listening. And you're correct that he wasn't listening. But I would stress again that I just think it's good to.
I just feel like even if I had started the conversation with, I believe value comes from sentience and that persons and humans are different, they would still stick on, well, you don't think humans have objective value. They would
probably
still be stuck on that.
They probably would, but then I would stop them and explain it again and say, no, I'm saying that people have inherent value. People, not human, and not human vessels. You know, that would be the way I handle it. But like I said, it's all right. We'll keep going.
Morality. You can still have objective morality in my worldview. There's no disconnect
But then
there.
we could argue that it would be fundamentally wrong to unalive a child.
Yes,
before
and I would
24
ask you why. Right? Objective morality still needs a reason, right? There can't not be a reason here. But if your reason is you can't unalive them because they're humans, and I say, well, what is valuable about them being humans? And you just respond with, well, they're humans, that's not telling me anything.
Human beings.
Lady Nova brought up something great. It's intersubjective. We can agree on it largely. That's a good point. If as a society we value respecting women in our society, it is considered moral to like hold the door open for people, right? But why? What if we considered it moral to not hold the door open? What if we considered it a sign of disrespect to hold the door open because they can clearly do it themselves? We're belittling them by holding the door, you know? So yeah, I can see where you're coming from. That makes sense.
Human beings are both the soul and the body, the rational soul and the body. We are the pinnacle of creation.
Just so you know, this was the moment I wanted them to
get
get
to now prove it soul.
That is specifically, as soon as he said that, I was like, bam, because I just wanted them to admit their entire worldview is based on religion. It has nothing else to do with it. It doesn't matter what harm abortion does. It doesn't. It's only because God told them abortion was wrong.
Okay, you know what?
So as soon as he goes soul, I was like, boom.
You know what? That's fair.
Body, the rational soul and the body. We are the pinnacle of creation.
Yeah, the heavy lifting would be on you here to now prove it soul. You would have to prove that. Like that's where the heavy lifting now comes in. The burden now goes to you, right? You're claiming that there is a soul. Now I can say there's a mind, but I don't think that bodies sans a mind matter in any.
What is the composition of man?
What
is? You tell me.
What?
It's a question that means.
What is a man?
It's a question that means nothing. As soon as we get to the religion side, they start flailing hard. And at one point in the debate, I push back and go, well, how do you reconcile with your religion when your religion kills this many people because God says so? And then they just kick me. They're like, well, we're done with this conversation. Like it's so easy. It's I just wanted them to admit that their whole backing is of Christ.
I'll be real. I missed like the last 3 minutes of this, so that'll be a fun experience.
I'm asking you, what is it? What is it made up of?
What is a man?
I think it's a mind-body connection.
It's a mind-body connection.
Yes.
That's a good answer.
I don't think it's just a body. I think there's nothing.
Pretend to be at your philosophical levels, but I simply just live in reality and try to reason with what we.
Well, wait, but I'm also living in reality, right? Like if we're looking at.
No, I agree. You have your own reasoning.
Well, it's not just me. It's the entire world we live in, right? This is why like we consider brain death to be the point of death, right? This is why every marker for death, what actually matters is how long your brain has been alive for, right? Because the brain is what matters. The experience is what matters. If our hearts could stop for 20 minutes, but we can keep the brain alive, we're going to keep the brain alive and wait 20 minutes till we can hook it up to a new heart. But if the brain dies for long enough, we don't even bother because we know that it doesn't. I
think at this point I was like
parts
starting
of
to
you
agree with
that
you
are
on
needed
pretty
for
much
you to be
everything.
sentient and conscious are gone. Right? They're gone at that point. The oxygen has been deprived and those cells have died off. So we already in society value sentience over anything else.
That is true. Well, I would argue, I think as a society we value sapience over anything else. I don't know about sentience.
I would say if we valued sapience, we wouldn't value babies, right?
Uh,
I say we place I at least to me, I don't think we place the marker on, because like I said, at least when I looked up sapience, it showed me intelligence. Let me look up sapience again.
yeah, I'm doing it right now. Sapiens is responsible for states of awareness, while sentience is responsible for states of feeling. So you can be sentient and feel things, and be able to like respond to it. So you would be sentient as like a consciousness is
Well,
more
no, because
complex than either of these.
what I'm looking here, sapience is a state of awareness that provides consciousness with the capacity for thought and rationality. But if me and you were to both say we have somebody who doesn't have the capacity for rationale, we still believe that that person would be morally considered, right? We wouldn't
So
say that we would get rid of them from society, because that feels a little like we're going to put all the people that don't have the capacity for higher rationale or don't have the capacity for intelligent thought in, like, what are we going to do with them?
right, but then couldn't you also lump in like sentient animals as well? We don't like humans do not value, or I should say, people don't value uh, animals.
Some don't. But like I said,
I mean, I
if I'm
don't.
giving an
Like
ought claim, if I'm giving an ought claim, I think we probably ought to value sentient animals.
the difference is easily put. Dogs have sentience, but dolphins have sapience, according to Queen Laura. I don't know. Would you agree with that?
I don't know enough about sapiens to say yes or no. I would need to look
Fair
into
enough.
sapiens more.
I
Um,
honestly should too. I think it's an interesting concept, and it looks like consciousness, at least according to MDPI, the first result on Google, consciousness is more complex than either sapience or sentience, or the individual
yeah,
states.
that's why I don't use consciousness, because I think consciousness we get into a whole different weed. Sentience
I mean,
is pretty easy. 24 weeks we have the ability to experience.
I mean, consciousness is very complicated, but I mean, I'm conscious, and I can say that at least. I think, therefore, I am, right? Anyway, let's keep going. I don't know where I was going with that. Non sequitur.
Thoughts, Felipe?
And again, I mean, that's where we have a fundamental disagreement. I don't think anyone's going to change anyone's minds. Is that you think, Javon, that we have a subjective world, right? Where I think it's really hard to, I think, almost disrupt your narrative if you don't believe that there is inherent human dignity. Again,
I do. I never said that.
Javon, you got to let people talk, man. You can disagree that.
I'm sorry. It's just so funny. It's just so he's so triggered, man. It's so funny.
It's so ridiculous. I also don't. What is this inherent human dignity? Like, it's not even what we're talking about. Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's equating that with like basic respect, or like what was the word you used? Basic,
Consideration.
maybe consideration. Yeah, maybe. I think that's what he's trying to say. But if you're being charitable, but I don't know.
Wait, can I just say really
Again.
quickly? You guys
Oh, sorry.
have interrupted
I
me
keep thinking
a
it's
lot.
you.
And like all I do is respond back to you, and I get told I'm interrupting. But okay.
Because you talk for 5 minutes. But the point is that
He is big
you
mad.
don't believe there is inherent human dignity. And I think that's inherently a problem, because if you don't believe human beings have value, then we're not distinguishing.
But he didn't say human beings don't have value. He said humans don't. Like, you're right. Like, at this point, they're just not listening.
Yeah, it's 100% that they're not listening,
Yeah, and I think
or they're trying to they're just purposely not listening to gaslight the conversation.
I think it's because I was very tired when I watched it, and I am a little bit of an ape brain. But I did think that, like, no, he did say that. So that's kind of why I brought you on. That's all.
I think one of the things they're also doing too is I think it's very tactful that they're trying to set me off, right?
Yeah.
Because they think if we can set him off, then we can show that and I'm like, that's not.
Oh, it's dishonest, right? No, here's the thing. People on the left and progressives, I don't know what you consider yourself, but
I'm a leftist. I'm a full commie, baby.
perfect. Okay. So people on the left who who do debates like this, they have the facts on their side. They have reality on their side. So they have a handicap in that regard, if you could call it. Something playing on my desktop audio? What the heck? I don't know. Anyway, they have a handicap in that regard. So the other side then is forced to use underhanded tactics like forcing you to get off to knock you off your game, or like forcing you to get upset, or like getting under your skin, or purposefully being stupid or conflating your idea. Like, they have to be dishonest in their tactics because, you know, they know that we're correct. So, I don't know. I just felt that was interesting.
Any other mammals, right? And I think that's problematic.
Yeah, so two things there. I don't think humans are inherently valuable, but I do think sentient humans are valuable, right? And I do distinguish human from other mammals because we have a higher capacity for rationale. Like, right, there is a higher capacity that exists within us that really the next couple animals you're going to find are like a dolphin and a pig that are able to ration and reason the same in any way close to what we are. So it's not that I don't believe in human dignity. It's that I believe that human dignity has to come with the person, not just with the body, right? I don't believe in body dignity. No, I don't see the point of that, except for maybe in some sort of respect for a family, right? But I don't believe in a body dignity. That just doesn't. There's no there isn't anything logical there.
Sure, and I guess, and again, you have a subjective view on that, but like if everything is subjective, then really no one is right or wrong. It really comes down to who has the most power in deciding these things. And again, we've seen in history times where we've had really arbitrary determinants for who gets who gets human rights, right? I mean, we can look back, slavery, like.
Yeah, but if your subjective analysis leads you to the conclusion that all humans, all human people, whatever, deserve rights, then you can call that subjective, but it's still the best way to go about it, right? Like, we've decided collectively that that's the best way to go about it, and for good reason.
Well, and it also this is a specific fallacy too. It's a fallacy that states that because some people take an argument and do bad things with it does not mean that the argument is bad, right? It's just that some people will do bad. Like I could say the same thing to them. Like, well, tons of people killed in the name of religion. So does that mean all religion is now bad?
Right, and another part of that is like, you could water that down as much as you want. You could literally just say, I should be allowed to do things. And then somebody could be like, what about this thing? Murder? You think you should be allowed to do murder? You said you're allowed to do things, right? Like, I don't know. It's very disingenuous.
Yes, they were objectively wrong, right? But that's because we have an objective worldview. If you, believe that there is subjectivism, then it's really
basically he's not contending with the point at all. He's just saying your view is subjective, and subjective views exist that conflict with yours.
Yep.
Like, that's his argument.
The most powerful faculties that determine who gets human rights and who doesn't, and I think that's scary.
Yeah, so I would.
And I want to add one. Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah,
I was just going to say that I have an issue when we tend to. It's a specific logical fallacy when you say, "Hey, well, because this idea was held by somebody else that did."
Damn, I really am unoriginal.
Sorry.
I'm just saying the same thing I just said 2 seconds ago.
Well, I mean, it's worth repeating because
it's a specific logical fallacy when you say, "Hey, well, because this idea was held by somebody else that did bad, this is now a bad ideal." It's like in I don't remember the exact name of the appeal. But
I see what you're saying. You just said no. Yeah, I remember you saying that. I let you cook though. It's a good point.
Again,
it's a specific fallacy. Like, it's not telling me anything. It's just, well, this, like, one of my issues right now is you guys haven't been able to justify your position past we believe there's some objective higher power that is telling us that this is bad.
Okay.
Right?
To be fair, hold on. I have to jump in there. To be fair, and I'm getting a lot of shit in the comments. That's fine. I'm 22 years old, so I'm not going to pretend to be this great theologian, although I aspire to be that one day.
Yes, for those who are just joining us, the person talking to us right now is Joven Bradley on stream. We're going over his debate because I had some contentions with it, but we've kind of come to largely an agreement, I feel. So we're just going through the rest of it and shitting on this guy now.
You can hold views as a person, right? And those views can seem correct to you, and they can provide a lot of fruit for your life and the life of others. And I don't know what Felipe's views are.
Yes, we can help you.
But I know he's Catholic.
Let us help you.
I believe the church when the church says that human beings were made in the image of God. I believe the church when the church says that humans have this great deal of value and they're worth protecting. Now, if you're going to ask me then to break that down, I can break it down.
I would have stopped him right there, even though he says not to interrupt. I still would have tried. I personally would have stopped him and said, no, You're misrepresenting my point because he is. He is purposefully misrepresenting you, and you should point that out.
Well, I think what happened here is 17 minutes into the debate, I kind of wanted him to go into Jesus because I was like, okay, well then I'll just switch this to a religion debate and I'll make you look even dumber. Okay. I was kind of hoping he would do it, but then when I tried to do it, they kicked me.
Let the man cook then. All right. I haven't seen this part, so this is new for me.
Being a young man myself, I will have to punt in some ways. Now, does that mean that I need to now be, I have to have a subjective view of the world? I don't think so. I think that's a fundamentally
No. This isn't harmful. This is not harmful opinions we're talking to. We already talked to that shithead.
A weird view that you have that I can't, that we
this guy's cool.
or me, I can't that I can't move forward in my life with this view because it's an assumption. I mean, again, assumptions happen. We sometimes we have to make assumptions. Not everything is black and white, but that's my view. So you understand me better.
Yeah, I would just argue that your worldview is still subjective. It's subject to God, right? It's not subject to like your own reasonings, right? It's subject to another person's.
I actually don't hold this stance anymore. I actually think it is subject to their own reasoning because. So I was actually thinking about this the other day because I was looking up the definition of objective and subjective, and objective is separate from any human reasoning, but because we don't have direct word from God, right? They claim it's the Bible, but the Bible is just human interpretation of what they say God said. They're just interpreting God's will. Like I actually think it's less. It's not that it's subject to God. It's still just subject to human reasoning, and so I would still say that it's now subjective. But yeah, I changed this like within the last week or so.
I would say it's not subjective to human reasoning. I would say it's subject to a fictional person's reasoning. If we're being real, it'd be like getting subjective opinions and advice from Harry Potter, because they can't prove that that God is real, so they're going completely and entirely off of a fictional entity.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean, okay. Right? Because God isn't real,
right?
The only reasoning they can place on God is from their own brains, even if they don't think that's the case.
Okay, I see what you're saying, right? And they're just going off of the things that they've interpreted for themselves. Okay,
yeah, because I think I mentioned it here. Like, if God was really against killing, half the Bible would be blank.
Oh yeah, yeah. That flood killed quite a few.
What is my definition?
At least I imagine.
Of God? God is the infinite good, so He's complete truth. So it's subject to truth. That, in my view, in my objective view, I'm trying to discover.
In my objective view, what? What?
They don't know what they're talking about.
They don't. But in my objective, yes, my view, my view is the objective one. If you didn't know, I have all the answers. Yes, I do.
And realize truth.
I was sent by God Himself.
This would still be. It's still based on something that is not a fact, right? Like you're claiming that this is true, this is fact, but there is no evidence that this is true, this is fact. That's why we call it faith. That's why we say you have to believe in faith, right? Because there is no evidence, right? That's the whole thing.
Well, no, that's actually there is evidence for faith, right? Jesus Christ did rise from the dead, and there were apostles, and there was the rise of Christianity. That would all be evidence. Now you don't have to necessarily believe the evidence, but that's
I'd love
evidence.
to see them.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Rise from the dead.
Javon, really quick.
I was literally just having a debate with somebody about that. It was like some guy. Okay, so I went over that video from Redeemed Zoomer. Did you ever see that one?
Probably not.
Ooh, I gotta send you that. That's a great video for you to go over. Let me send you that real quick. But I was going over this video from Redeemed Zoomer, and then I had a commenter say that like I didn't really contend with his arguments, but they're all just shower arguments, right? And so this commenter came on to like talk to me about that. And basically was just trying to make the case that we have evidence that Jesus rose from the dead. And I was like, okay. Or like it's no, not even that we have evidence. It was even worse. It was that it is like the logical conclusion to draw that he rose from the dead and was ascended into heaven. And I don't hate the guy, by the way. We did come to some agreements, but he thought that. And I was like, that's nonsensical.
I was just saying somebody probably just stole his corpse. Like, let's be real. Like, why
right?
This ain't Sherlock Holmes.
And I said that.
They're like,
and I said that. I granted him that. I gave him that argument, and he said, okay, but like, we don't have any documents that show that, nobody said that we did that. And it's like, just,
Because you all believed he rose from the dead. Why would anybody say otherwise?
Right. And so I was like, what if they were all on psychedelics? What if somebody stole the body? What if somebody burned the body? Like, you have no clue what could have happened. What if the fucking people who were guarding it did something with it? Oh, it was guarded. Okay, by who? How can I trust these guards? You know, like, there's so many conflicting factors here. And he just was having none of it. Finally, I didn't want to be mean to the guy, and also I kind of liked him. So finally I was like, can you please at least concede that there is a possibility that you are wrong? You know, if I could just get that, then I'll end this, and it's fine, and I'll like you. And he said, yeah, no, I could totally be wrong. That's fine. Okay, fine. We got an ounce of rationality. Thank you. I'll take it.
Just to add to James' point, and then
I have other debates like this. But one of my usual go-to to debate religion with people is I like to ask them, if God's all good, why do babies have cancer?
True.
And it's pretty great. It's pretty great time.
Well, if God's all good, all knowing, and all powerful, bad things should not exist. So
true.
He has to be at least not one of those three things.
Such thing as 100% certainty. Like I can assume, right, with maybe 90% certainty that James is in his house, right? For all I know, he could be at work, he could be in a recording studio, right? If I look at my wallet and I say, yes, my debit card is in there.
I would not assume that with 90% certainty, by the way.
Because I left it there, right? I can't be certain. And that's similarly how faith works, right? Like, we have evidence that points to the existence of a transcendent power, right?
Oh, that's
and like,
true,
even in philosophy.
I did make a Christian cry with the cancer argument.
A Christian cry? What do you mean? Oh,
yeah,
I see.
She started crying, and then she asked for aftercare. It was kind of crazy.
My God.
That video chat, for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, I'm gonna do a quick plug on my channel.
Wait, that was video, real? You're real?
That video on my Patreon for anybody that hasn't seen that yet.
You guys heard the man. Hey, I might pay for it. I want to see that shit.
It's entirely based on
like, I don't know. Right? I don't want to be mean, but at a certain point,
philosophy
it's like
may
pathetic.
point to some kind of transcendent power.
That was an abortion debate too, wasn't it? Yeah, I think the whole that debate where I made a Christian cry was because we were having an abortion debate, and their whole crux of their argument again was because of God, and I was like, how you reconcile with all this, bro?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, again, like, if they're what they call pro-life, I call it forced birth. If they're forced birth, then I'm not going to give a shit about their feelings, because the consequences of their worldview are simply too, they're too bad. They're just too severe. I cannot give them any leeway. Like,
that's
I will at first, but... Huh?
I said that's me with all conservatives.
I mean, I'm reaching that point. My dad's still a conservative, but I mean, he's toned it down at least. Yeah, it's just dad. It's whatever. All right, we're almost done. Let's finish up.
Prove definitively, right, that Jesus Christ is that transcendent power. But I would
Someone
say,
said you just sold me on your Patreon.
Entertain our perspective for a moment. And I think that if you were to agree with us, right?
Oh, link me in Discord, by the way.
But if you were to agree, and we were right, that there is a transcendent power, right, that it's God, the Christian God, then our entire argument falls in line. But again, I still think that even without faith, right, without the Christian God, you're still able to make a case against abortion. But anyway, carry on.
And Javon, I want to give you just a chance to respond, but then I do want to wrap it up. So just whatever you got to say, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say if we're saying that we're now basing this on the Christian God, I would just argue that, like, based on the text revolving the Christian God doesn't actually value life. Like, this isn't actually something that is value specific life. He doesn't value all life. This would just be, like, written into the text of your own
True
book, right? So I would just say it kind of seems like we're cherry picking which things we believe God believes in and which things we don't believe God believes in.
Well, the church has taught the sanctity of life principle for a long time, but I appreciate you coming on.
That's such a weird answer. What does it matter what the church says? It matters what God says.
This is about what the Bible says. Your holy book says that he did this shit. Clearly, he does not respect the life that he created. You're right. You're completely correct.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Javon.
That wasn't an insult. That was just factual.
Yeah, they weren't they weren't receptive anyway.
Not really. Well, anyway, man, I had a pleasant experience. I think that We definitely agree on everything, no doubt. Like I don't find any disagreements with you except for except for my initial grudge, which is just simply your tactics.
Yeah.
The only thing that I said that I think could be better is just like, explaining the difference between human and person, because I guess in my brain at the time I was like, the other guy's right. Like, he said quite literally that he does not value humans, and that's a really bad look. Having went over this again and having spoken to you personally about it, I now have a better understanding of your views, and that you don't actually think that no human people have no value, but rather it's just like the vessel of the human, the body itself, with no brain attached to it and no experiences attached to it and no consciousness attached to it, or sentience, as you put it. That has no value. And I agree with you. I would just stress that a little bit better in the future if it were me. So I don't know if other people feel that way. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
But other than that, we agree on everything. And I thought you did great after that.
Dope. I gotta go pee.
Okay. Hey, it was great talking to you, man. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. I didn't catch that. Is he still there? I don't know if he's still there. All right, well, I guess he went to go pee. We'll wait for him to come back and give him a proper send-off. Don't ask a trans girl to tell you about new Canaanites and Fallout in New Vegas. Hey, when you gotta pee, man. Cool conversation. Thanks for the introduction to Joven. Yeah, I asked him to link me to his Patreon. I want to make sure that I give him a good shill. He's got only 3.65k subscribers, so go change that. He's a good guy. See, this is a proper conversation about disagreement and optics and tactics, okay? This is what this is all about. This is what... Thank you so much, Shaka.
He's definitely worthy casting out of your circle. 1. He's absolutely a sex pest. He did engage in sex with underage horses. And 2. Wears glasses, bad optics.
Okay. Nice. Good meme. Thank you so much, Shaka Tanuki, for the 2 tier 1 gifted subs. I appreciate you. Why was I tagged? You're now subbed, Lude Nudes. Good. Congratulations. Congraturitos. You can now use such emotes as Gunter High. And by high, I mean like the fun kind. Whole computer just shit the bed. Oh, shit! Oh, man. Okay. I'll go ahead and link his stuff for him. So this is his YouTube. Joven Bradley, everybody. Joven Bradley. Great guy. Very reasonable, too. Very reasonable. You know, I wasn't sure what I was expecting from this conversation because I've been talking to dipshits all the time. But I was worried that it would go south quickly, and it did not. He heard me out, and that's all I asked for. So even if we disagree with our tactics, I understand what he's going for now. I can empathize with it, and that's awesome. So we'll link all of his shit in the YouTube video, and I'll link it in the chat here in just a second, right after I get done recording. So thanks again to Joven. Thank you so much, Joven, for coming on. I know that you're not here at the moment, but it was a lovely conversation, and I wish the best for your channel, and I will send people over to help you out. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more, hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload. If you enjoy my content, you enjoy what I do, I really appreciate any financial help that I can get. Go to youtube.com/AlecGunterTTV/join. You got some awesome benefits, such as seeing early videos, awesome emotes that you can use in the comments of YouTube videos, and a sweet badge next to your name. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd really appreciate if you join. It is cheaper than the cost of a blowjob from your mom. So with all that being said, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.